But what our challenge is in terms of going to the business owner and to the employees themselves is to explain how our products help protect their lifestyles, how our products help protect their financial well-being. And it's in the whole method of what our products provide in terms of benefit to people. So we're one of the few insurance products out there that pays cash directly to people.
David,
You're David's a given name.
Given name. What your government name, man? So what? Okay, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the Paso Robles podcast. We'll talk about Paso Robles at some point. If you know what to love, what to hate. Yeah. I know we're neighbors as far as where our office is, or my studio, your office. Right. And I guess my first question is, who are you? What do you do? And fire away. If you do have to look at the camera, it's the one in the middle right here, the phone.
The middle?
Cool. If you have to.
Yeah. Sure. No, my name is David Rosales. Mostly go by Dave in most circles. David, though, at home where family is. And grew up in the Fresno area, a small community called Parlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's home. In fact, I was just back there visiting some cousins and an uncle this past weekend. Yeah, it's always good to go home, visit with family.
Fun story. I was in Lemoore for 4 years.
Okay.
So it's just south of Fresno, 559, all that stuff. So I was able to get to know Fresno a little bit, not too much. Yeah. But it's a big area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big valley.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. It was nice to see the mountains, you know. It had been clear enough from the recent rain.
Oh, yeah.
To see the Sierras back there with the snow. And I mean, growing up there, you kind of forget about it with all the air quality and
oh yeah, the first night I came in, I mean, it was very foggy. I think it was like September-ish, and I mean, I left Paso, that night to wake up the next day and start running that theater.
Right.
And the first thing I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me. I guess that's normal over there. Which is funny because like after I lived there for so long, it maybe happened like one more time, and after that it was fine. I think it's because I was always stayed in town.
Yeah.
But on the freeways and highways, you can't see 10 feet in front of you at a certain point.
Yeah. All it takes is one time for you to remember how bad it is, right?
Yeah.
And you said September. That's really early.
Yeah.
That's traditionally really early because traditionally it's mostly December-ish and January, at least from my recollection. I haven't lived there for several years, Yeah. Last time I lived there was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But growing up there, you actually had foggy day schedules.
Oh, really?
It was so bad where the buses would not go out.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that was cool for a kid who lived out in the country who got bussed in, but I grew up right across the street from the school, so you still had to be there on time. But,
that's funny.
But that fog could be nasty.
Yeah. Another thing I remember going that way is the smell, the cattle smell.
Oh, yeah.
I got used to it, obviously, like anything else you get used to. Like if you spend enough time, but I would come visit Paso every once in a while. Get that smell out, get fresh air. I visit the beach, make it a point to go to the beach just to make sure. And then then I went back and I'm like, yep, there it is.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, if you drove towards Lemoore on any, let's just say week and night, like on a Friday night particularly, you see all that traffic coming this way.
Yeah, they're coming this way. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Popular destination for everyone in that area.
Yeah, it was either that way or a lot of people would actually, for some reason, from Lemoore, I would always hear that they would go to Vegas because it's like since the highway got fixed or built, right. Straight shot 6 hours, no stopping. If you make it, you're good.
Yeah.
But I was like, that became a big part of our conversation all the time, and I'm guessing Fresno, since it's like a little bit closer. I think I'm not great with geography.
Yeah, not so much closer. Lemore's probably closer, but I mean, we're probably by 10, 50 miles.
Yeah. So tell me a little more about Fresno. What you grew up there? Where'd you move to next?
Sure. I've bounced around quite a bit in California.
Okay.
Yeah. I was that wayward child that kind of got out. Had to get out of the valley.
Couldn't sit still.
Yeah. But I went through high school there, grew up, great town to grow up in. You know, I grew up in the early 70s in that town, born in 64. Grew up in the 70s, saw a lot of change going on in a little tiny community like Parlier.
Yeah.
And but it was a great place to grow up, particularly at my age at that time.
Yeah.
I was one of the younger kids in a group of about 12 of us. So there was no lack for playtime. There was no lack for playing a game of football or baseball or basketball or racing bikes, thinking we were in the Indy 500 around the block, taking our own little bike trips to neighboring towns like Reedley.
Yeah.
It was about 5 miles away, but all countryside, you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of exploring as a kid, and it was a great place to grow up and a lot of fond memories.
You know, that's one thing I never got a chance to do while I was over there. It's all flat.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of hills. You could take a bike ride to like 2 cities down and be fine and come back the same day because there's no hills to get you tired.
Right.
You just coast.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to do that, but I had a buddy of mine. He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to ride my bike all the way to so and so and come back." And I'm like, "What? If you do it here in Paso, you're done after like a couple not a couple miles, but you're done pretty quickly because you got all the ups and downs and the hills."
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally different terrain.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the valley, 99 kind of runs in a northwest, southeast fashion, but every other town is right on a grid.
Yeah.
Right? True north-south, true east-west. So pretty easy to navigate. We always kid each other. It's like where I grew up, you can drive 6 miles in any direction, and you're going to run into the next town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feel from here to over there. So I know you bounced around. So what was the order of towns or cities that you were in?
Oh, great. So I was real familiar with Paso right after high school because I went to school at Santa Barbara City College.
Oh, okay, so you passed through a lot.
Yeah, used to pass through a lot, especially going home during the season, and just loved the area. Loved Paso, Templeton, Atascadero. You know, just the whole scenery. Really scenic, really nice, great atmosphere. So that's my first recollection of coming through this area. But I was pursuing a basketball career of some sort out of high school. So I had an opportunity to go play for a really well-known, established basketball coach at that city college in Santa Barbara. Someone who was well-known in the sport throughout at any level.
You can't drop his name?
Sure, Frank Carbajal.
Frank Carbajal?
Yeah, Coach Carb.
Coach Carb.
Yeah, the famous Coach Carb.
Okay, I'm going to have to look it up. I'm terrible with this sports names. I just wanted to get it for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, great mentor.
Okay.
Someone I definitely needed at that point in my life. I was that 18-year-old who was a little bit stubborn, you know, needed to get away.
So what made you, besides the basketball career that you were pursuing, what made you choose Santa Barbara? Because all I ever think about is Isla Vista. Anytime I think about anybody going to Santa Barbara, Isla Vista, and then, you know, all this. I mean, I went down there one time for spring break, and it was super fun. But beyond that, like I couldn't see myself there longer than that. But I think that's one of the incentives. It's a party town.
You know, it was never an incentive of mine.
Oh, okay.
I had no clue what Isla Vista
You're
was.
stronger
honestly.
than I am.
Well, two different worlds, UCSB and Santa Barbara City.
Oh, okay.
You know, I always tell people I went to the nicer campus because City College sits on a bluff above the harbor in Santa Barbara.
Oh, wow.
So you have the beauty of that whole terrain up there. Of course, UCSB sits out in Goleta. Nice campus, don't get me wrong. But going to City College was nothing I had planned on other than I was referred to there as someone looking to continue my career in basketball. Growing up in the Valley, I was one of the top players growing up there at the high school level. But unbeknownst to me, I needed a lot of work to improve to play at, you know, the all-important Division I level for the high school kids coming out. And so it was recommended from a conversation my older brother had with one of the assistant coach there at Fresno State, that probably Frank Carbajal was the guy to go play for to improve and have that ability to eventually play at that level.
Yeah. Did you find yourselves getting as far as you did because of skill, and then you need discipline, or how would you summarize what he taught you and what you already knew, kind of thing?
Right. I had a great high school coach, number one, but I actually had some interaction with Coach Carbajal prior to that through basketball camps there in the Valley.
Oh, okay.
He had previously been an assistant coach at Fresno State from 69 to 78 and ran a lot of clinics and camps in that area, one of which my older brother Rod went to in 74 up at Sierra High School.
Okay.
That was my first exposure to Coach Carb. But interestingly enough, there was kind of a lineage, if you will, of coaches that were students of his at Fresno State in the PE program, learning coaching techniques, etc., that ended up coming through my high school and being head coaches. One of them, which was my head coach, Rick Rodriguez, who was an excellent coach, partly born and bred. We had a great career there at that high school for about a 6-year run during his tenure there. And I was certainly a part of that.
Yeah.
Typically in high schools, small towns like that, it's cyclical in terms of athletic talent coming through there. And I was fortunate enough to be kind of in that mix. And so had great coaching from him. And what Coach Rodriguez taught me was toughness and competitiveness. Now, as a young kid and being one of those young guys in that group of 12, I was always competing against older guys.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of loved to compete, loved athletics. And basketball was the one I kind of ended up, pursuing more than the others. And so what Coach Carbajal did was really break down the game to the bare fundamentals of the game, really breaking it down. And a lot of it served as metaphor for life,
Oh yeah.
fundamentals, sticking to what's important, relying on those to improve. And it was the perfect place for me to go at that point in time in my life, for sure.
So what paused or stopped you from continuing a career in basketball?
Well, I continued to pursue it after my 2 years there.
Okay.
We had great teams there. We won our conference championship both years. My sophomore year, we actually lost in the state final in overtime. And the nice part about that was, and there's never nothing nice about losing, right? As we were able to play the state tournament at Fresno at the time. So it was a chance to go back home, if you will, and play in Selland Arena, which was the main arena at the time in Fresno. So we got to play the entire championship there, and very memorable. Had a lot of family and friends attend. And then after that, I decided to take a couple of trips to see, where else I might be able to pursue playing, and ended up at Cal State Northridge for a very short time. Things just didn't pan out there. Wasn't the right fit. There were some coaching changes going on that maybe were part of it not being a right fit.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. And so I left after about my first month there and went back to Santa Barbara City College and stayed in touch with my coach. He had me there at practice every day anyway, scrimmaging and staying in shape. Got back in school the following spring and took 18 units of courses just to complete my AA and get prepared for the next stop.
Yeah.
And thought, at that time in Fresno, at Fresno State, in that short time, Fresno State all of a sudden was on the national scene basketball-wise. And going through high school, having observed that and seeing how well they were, it was like, maybe that's where I want to go next. And so I had an opportunity to go there and walk on in 85 and 86 and play for a coach by the name of Boyd Grant, who was kind of the architect of that initial Fresno State basketball run. And so got to live that experience. And then after that point in time, I just kind of lost my passion for the game. And I was always real passionate about it. And it just almost became like sort of a job at that level.
Okay.
And I wasn't really prepared for it. And
so what do you think made it feel like a job? Was it because I turn on the TV and every once in a while I'm seeing college games now.
Yeah.
Was that something that's starting to roll in, or already started in the progress of it?
Well, it's everyone knows the name Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Well, in 1982, Michael Jordan hit a huge shot against Georgetown. That's kind of basketball lore now, and that game was at the Superdome in Louisiana.
Okay.
So that was my senior year in high school. And so the focus of college basketball really initiated 4 years before that.
Got it.
When Magic Johnson and Larry Bird played in a final.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this great attention on college basketball. And man, as a young kid, I wanted to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But you don't realize all the time and effort it takes. I wasn't on scholarship, and so I didn't have access to the dorm and the food plan and everything. I had to go home and eat in my own apartment.
Yeah.
And so it became more of a task than I was prepared for or even knew about.
Yeah.
And it just takes a lot of time and commitment. And it was a little bit more than I had anticipated. And so I had the experience. It was a great experience. And left the game at that point in time and decided, well, I'll go get a job like everybody else. I was never the greatest student, you know.
I can relate there. Yeah. I can definitely relate there.
Had I put as much effort in the classroom as I did on the floor, you know,
Yeah.
that would have been the ideal thing.
It makes you wonder, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I was always honest about that. You know, I was bright enough and intelligent enough, just wasn't interested enough.
Could you teachers tell, like, hey, this guy's going somewhere? He's just obviously he's not going to be at school. Like, were they like that transparent with you or candid?
It was more like, you know, this guy's got some intelligence, but just needs to apply himself, and you know, but it's always an interest level for me.
Yeah,
you know, nothing really caught my interest to keep me in the classroom. Other than I will tell you, the greatest class I did ever have, funny enough, was a geology class. That time after I'd come back from Northridge, back to City College. And so an ex-girlfriend I'd been dating at the time said, hey, you got to take this geology class, but more importantly, you got to take the field trip during spring break. It's an amazing trip. I said, sure, why not? So I took the geology class because it's a requirement, you know, at some level. The field trip was to Death Valley.
What's Death Valley?
Death Valley is the famous desert area in California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you talked about Vegas.
Yeah.
Death Valley sits actually north of I-15 on your way to Vegas. So you go through Barstow and Baker.
Yeah.
Baker's kind of the south entrance to Death Valley.
Okay.
And we spent 5 days, 4 nights on Death Valley studying plate tectonics, which is essentially the movement of the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's different formations out there, et cetera, that lead to the fact that, you know, plate tectonics is real and the Earth has shifted, et
So you can
cetera.
actually physically see difference of
the formations and, you know, the freshwater streams that pop up in the middle of the spring and then go into nowhere and then disappear during the summer, you know.
Got it.
Just the number of interesting things that caught my fascination, if you will.
Yeah.
And went with a bunch of geology students ranging from late 20s, you know, to kids my age at the time, 19. Had no affiliation with any of them, but just it was a great experience. And I got to meet a different culture, if you will, different level of people that I hadn't been exposed to. I'd been around athletes all my whole life, you know.
Right.
And so it was a great experience. I mean, the time that sun comes up, you're peeling off stuff. And when that sun goes down, you got to bundle up because you get a little cold in the desert.
Freezing, yeah.
But it was, you know, I've got fond memories of it in terms of, I remember one of the locations we stopped at. In one panoramic turn and view, you could see the lowest point in the continental U.S. It's called Badwater. It sits 282 feet below sea level. And then you just kind of spin around, you see the backside of Mount Whitney.
Oh, wow.
The highest point in continental U.S. So that was fascinating.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that was probably the only class that ever really captured my imagination during the whole time going to school. Yeah.
So when a movie like Volcano comes out,
no interest.
No interest. Okay, just want to make sure, because I think about those tectonic plates and like the world ending, you know, scenarios. Like, do you think about like, no, that would never happen. You know, Yellowstone. You know, talking about like the
geysers and stuff.
The geysers. Like, there's no way. Like, when you see that, do you like flip the channel or do you like, okay, let's see what the hell they're talking about?
You know, stuff like that, National Geographic, national parks, all that stuff's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
You know, I remember way back when we were kids, there used to be a program called Mutual of Omaha. It was a program with this older scientist, for lack of a better way to put it, I guess.
Yeah.
And he would roam all these different parts of the world, and it was sponsored by the life insurance company, Mutual of Omaha. And I'm forgetting the name of the program right now, just sitting here, but it was fascinating to see this guy go all over the world in different parts.
Yeah.
The Jacques Cousteaus who went on the sea and stuff. All that stuff always captured my imagination.
Yeah.
But I never really took that interest to the classroom to see what it was about.
Right.
Yeah. Just too busy being a lazy athlete, I guess.
Well, I think if you well, one, the ex-girlfriend probably motivated you to take it because, they say, any girlfriend you have at the time, they tell you something, you're like, and you're interested in them, so you're going to be interested in the subject.
Yeah.
That's how I learned salsa dancing.
Okay, very good.
I'll go to River Park in Fresno. But when you want to learn something, I feel like it's very important to just kind of like literally put yourself in that world so you can just digest it every way possible, right?
Right.
Like you actually took the trip during spring break.
Right.
If somebody wants to learn Spanish, either go to Mexico for 2 months straight and just nobody talk English.
Right.
Surround yourself by just Spanish speaking people. Or get a job at Taco Bell. One of the two, and just sit there. Because I've seen like kids learn Spanish through working at like fast food places. Yeah. So it's just very interesting how that works. But I think, surrounding yourself for a good 2 months or however long it takes. I mean, I think that's the way to go if you want to learn something. Yeah. And I think, what would be the next step after geology?
In terms of my experience or interest?
In your career, in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I never pursued any position in geology. It just captured my fascination. And I'll tell you what, it made me really appreciate something as simple as electricity. When you turn the lights on, you walk in a room, after being out in the desert for 5 days.
Yeah.
So it really had an impression on me on that. And I was like, really, I'm pretty fortunate to just, have running water and go sit on a toilet in a closed room, stuff like that. Just basic things.
The shower, once you took the first shower. Oh. But I think I personally haven't had a chance to, but going somewhere where there's no city lights and just looking up in the sky, how much more fuller was the sky with stars?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, amazing. They're right there.
Yeah. I need to do that. I need to expose myself at some point. It's hard to do it around here because there's lights everywhere. But like even driving to Lemoore, you still get street lights, cars driving by. Yeah. But I definitely have to do something a little out there. Oh, yeah. Well, no cell phone service.
There's plenty of little outlets on that way on that route.
Oh yeah.
In fact, have you ever been to what is it, Parkfield? It's supposed to be the most active earthquake tremor place in the world. One of them, anyway, because it sits right on the San Andreas Fault.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing I remember. It says the San Andreas Fault runs right through when you go through the Lemoore.
What's interesting when you said something about like the water showing up and disappearing, or like the river. Yeah. Paso has a river that kind of does that, right? It's completely empty right now, but as soon as it rains, that thing just fills up.
Oh, sure.
It's from my understanding, it's an underground river that kind of appears when it rains, right?
I'm not sure in Paso,
and it runs north like the Nile and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that is factual with certain rivers. Yeah, they're alive whether they're on the surface or not.
It never completely disappears, like under the ground. You know? But it's funny because like when I was in high school, that was one of the things that they liked to tell us about. It's like, oh, what's the similarity between the Nile River and the Salinas River here that runs through Paso? And we're like, oh, we don't know. It's like they're the only two rivers that run north. That's kind of cool.
That is cool. I didn't know that. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and
the
then
Nile and Salinas.
Yeah, I mean that. I don't know how important or how that actually works because the beach is the other way. Like I don't know if it's gravity the way like the everything is, but I mean when you mention the depth and the height of the mountains, I mean I can only imagine like gravity has something to do with it. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they say water always finds the lowest point, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there must be somewhere.
There must be. It's going somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. So, what happened after City College?
After City College, I did walk on.
That's right.
Did walk on at Fresno State for a year, and then my old high school coach called me to my old high school and said, "Hey, I've got my administrative degree, so I've been a principal for the last year. they're not going to let me coach anymore. So are you interested in coming back and, running the basketball program? I said, sure, let's talk. So we went, and I went back to my old high school. This is probably 5 years after I had graduated there. And coached there for a couple of years. Wasn't the right fit with respect to what the school board and administration was, and that's not breaking news in that town.
Yeah.
Every other year there's a new change in leadership, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's just one of the
Difference of opinions. And,
all the time, yeah. And so there's a constant battle, and it's still going on there, as I'm aware. But wasn't sure, kind of wayward, enjoying just kind of being single and young 20s and a bachelor, and had different jobs and played a lot of golf. Got my golf game down. It was 7 handicap at the time because I played like 4 or 5 times a year. So I was just enjoying living life. But eventually I got old, and I had a meeting, well, not necessarily a meeting. My old coach, Frank Carbajal, had now come back to Fresno State coaching again in an assistant coach's position.
Okay.
And that staff got fired roughly, I must say, like 1990. So he started working for the Utah Jazz. And it was a trip back to Fresno to visit one of his children there, his daughter, Randy, that I connected with him and said, hey, let's go out and play golf. You're in town, let's play golf. So we got together and played golf, and asked him, I said, hey, you looking at getting back in the coaching realm again? He says, as a matter of fact, I'm up for 2 positions up in Northern California. And I just told him right then, I said, Coach, if you have a spot as an assistant, I'd love to come up and coach with you. I think I need basketball again. I need that structure.
Yeah.
Because that's what it gave me. It gave me structure. And so about 4 weeks later, I get a phone call. He says, how fast can you be up here? I'm at De Anza College. I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. And so I went back to work for him now.
Okay.
So went full circle from being a camper in his basketball camps to one of his players to now
Coaching
I'm working for him. And I did that for 3 years there in Cupertino, California. That's where De Anza College is. And then he took a job at Hartnell College after 3 years at De Anza, and I followed them there. I was pursuing a college coaching career. I had some schooling to finish. I got back and re-enrolled at San Jose State for a year, and I knew I'd have to eventually get my master's. But then at that point in time, life throws you curveballs, life throws you twists. I met the mom of my children there, and we ended up eventually getting married and having kids, and then that became a situation where, okay, this assistant coaching at the junior college level isn't bringing in the right income, to sustain a family. And so it was evident I needed to go out and join the workforce again. But I've always had that connection to basketball, and always had that connection to coaching. And that's when I first got into insurance business in Salinas, California, back in 1996.
Okay.
And so that's what led me to kind of a new phase in my life, work-wise, certainly.
Did you apply like different jobs, or was like, oh, I'm going to go apply for insurance?
No, it's funny. I was doing all these odd part-time jobs just to, earn income. So I'd do telework. I used to deliver for this place that made muffin tops in Cupertino. I'd drive them all over the Bay Area. I used to work at UPS as a sorter back then. Just a variety of odd jobs just to make it go by. To pay the bills and survive and move on. And so I was probably my second day at good old First Interstate Bank in Salinas, doing in a teller position. Yeah. This guy walks up and says, hey, so how's the Hartnell men's basketball team going to be this year? I'm looking at the guy, and I have no idea who he is, right? And I said, it's our first year there. Got some good returners. We got some good kids coming in. We'll see. I know we'll be competitive. He goes, oh, great. I'll look forward to seeing you out there. And he goes, my name's Kim Reeder here. And he gives me a business card. And he says, I'll chat with you someday. We have a chance. We've got this presentation. Invite you to come over Thursday evening and see if it's something interest to you. Okay. Shift was over, and I called and told him I'd be there. And I went there that Thursday evening, and he recruited me to come and take my insurance license and come on board to sell life insurance and mutual funds and 401k plans, et cetera. And he taught me the ropes in the insurance business in the first couple of years. So, yeah, it was just unplanned.
Yeah.
I guess he thought he saw somebody who could be somewhat successful in that. And it took some time. But I worked 4 years in the insurance business there in Salinas. And I'll never forget what he told me. He told me, Dave, if you go out and prospect and you hustle, I'll make sure you make it in this business. And if you don't, I'll make sure you get out as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And so that was right up my alley. That was established by my coaching background, by being coached as an athlete. No nonsense, It's either this or that. And again, structure, being around people like that who knew how to speak to me, to drive me to do my best.
Yeah, and that's good to for somebody to see that from you, but from you to see that from them, because it's a tango, right?
Yeah,
you gotta pull each other to get the best out of each other.
Right.
I'm stuck on the basketball reference. Like, how do you think they're gonna do? How did he know you were in that world? Did he ever tell you?
I did tell him.
Okay.
There was a dinner, I think, that introduced Coach Carbajal a few days before.
Uh-huh.
And I was still living in San Jose at the time. I hadn't quite moved up into Salinas. So the week before, they had an introduction dinner for him. And I hustled up from San Jose after I got off work up there. And I got to the last part of it. And apparently he was there in the audience, attending it. And so when I got there, Coach introduced me as one of his assistants and former players, et cetera. And so that's where he recognized me, but I had no clue who he was. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting how this is a small world. And I mean, I even mentioned yesterday, like, how the studio was used by certain people that, like, I never thought they were going to, like, rent the studio from me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool when I got that email from, I want to say Winery Treasury Estates. Is that who bought Dow?
I'm not sure.
Whoever knows, I don't care. It's somebody, right? They, and you read the articles. They bought it for $977 million, and then at some point it says $1 billion. It's like, but the number keeps growing on the news articles. Right? Let's round it off. Yeah. But like the CEO came in and they rented it out, and they did it for their own immediate staff. Mm-hmm. So whatever they recorded, it's distributed to them, and they have. I think they told me they have like over 1,000 for sure staff. So they already have listeners already. Yeah. But it's like, it's such a small world that like somebody saw you walk in probably from the back, and you made some noise because you opened the door. Somebody else is talking, so he sees you come in, and he sees you at the bank 2 days later. Yeah. Obviously he's going to make his move because,
sure.
Greatness acknowledges greatness kind of thing,
That's a good way to put it. I'll take that.
Well, I feel like I always cross paths with people, and you know that weird itch you get, like I got to get to know this person a little bit. Mm-hmm. I get that every once in a while. I hope it's with everybody because I believe everybody has a greatness in them that they don't know yet, right? Sometimes, but there's times where like I stop and I'm like, he has to hang out with me again, or we have to hang out with again. Like at some point, it has to happen. Yeah. And there's only a few times where I've actually verbally said it out loud, and I always find it weird that I say it out loud. I had a buddy of mine in Lemoore. I want to say we went to Fresno River Park to dance salsa right there, right outside of Edwards Theater. Okay. And I met this guy, Jesus, and after we left, and my friend Manuel and I were, reminiscing what we just did. We danced, we had fun, whatever, and I mentioned like that Jesus fella, like you should invite him more often. Like he seemed like very contagious. Like he needs to be around other people because that's his power. Yeah. Kind of thing. And that was the first time I feel like I said that out loud. And ever since then I'm like, I have to figure out a way to say it better without sounding weird, because like, hey, I want to hang out with you more. Like that's just weird, right? But for the most part, like this us sitting down having a conversation, that's my way of doing it too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the small world thing. I come across quite a bit. I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of the United States, all work related, but run into people that know Coach Carbajal, run into people that have played for Coach Carbajal, things of that nature. It's almost like a badge of honor with respect to my relationship to him. Mm-hmm. And it also comes with a lot of respect because of the man that people were recognizing with. So just to be affiliated with somebody like that is really, really humbling.
Yeah.
But also, makes you appreciative of all he put you through and all the experiences you had with them, et cetera, and so forth. So, yeah.
Do you ever find yourself like passing that knowledge on to your kids and you just kind of like, this is what my coach would have said to me?
All the time.
Yeah.
My kids feel like they played for him at times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially my son, if you ask my son.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Being a college coach that he was, are there recorded, televised, or recorded games that you can reference? Like if I look him up, is he going to show up as like, oh, that's the coach right there?
You might find some, but gosh, this was, we're talking the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's very little film of when I played for him.
No. Okay.
Right? You can Google the name and perhaps find it because there's other Frank Carball's. I know there's a Frank Carball in education, although he was in education. And then in politics, that pops up more readily because of the, the frequency of it. But you can go into most gyms today still, I would say, and
drop his name.
You can drop his name to the coaching staffs, and inevitably someone will say, "Oh yeah, I know Coach Carball's." Mm-hmm. Yeah, without question.
Yeah. So you got recruited. You got brought into the world of insurance, and I'm guessing it's Aflac since then?
More recently, again, yeah. I actually, after living in Salinas, unfortunately went through a divorce, and my ex-wife and the children moved up to Sacramento, and, I couldn't have that separation. And, I loved being a dad.
Yeah.
So I had to be up there shortly thereafter and left the insurance business that I was in. So I was a captive agent. It's a terminology in insurance, which means simply that you don't take your customers with you.
Oh, okay.
They stay back with the company. I had no desire to get back into insurance because it was so hard to establish. For 4.5, 5 years, it was a grind. I relished the challenge. I loved it. But it was a grind. I thought, man, I had to do that all over again. I don't think so. So, I'm just going to be happy doing anything up there.
Yeah.
And I struggled to get an interview with anybody. And here all along, I thought I'd done all these things that were applicable. Like, well, I've coached and, so it's applicable to this. And I've done insurance and it's applicable to this. But because at least my impression at the time was because I had not really worked for anybody from 9 to 5 and had this established resume that I wasn't worthy of talking to. And so I thought, well, there's this Aflac opportunity there. I've heard of Aflac. I'm going to check them out. And then there's this other company called Combine. Funny enough, they're in similar type of insurances. I'll check them out. Oh, by the way, Liberty Mutual is looking for somebody to work in one of their local hospitals up here in Sacramento to increase their annuities business. So I can do that. That's what I did at Prudential and Matt. That's how it worked with Prayer. So I go to the first interview, all on the same day. Go to the first interview with Combine. Wasn't really impressed. Okay, next one. Go to the Aflac one. And it just intrigued me. Everything I had done previously with Prudential and MetLife in terms of prospecting, talking to people, and finding solutions to problems that they had, issues, etc., was all in one opportunity here with Aflac. And I said, where do I sign? And so I hit the ground running with them, had a real successful career with them up in the Sacramento area for about 8 years. And then we parted ways. And 14 years later, while I'm pursuing the solar industry in Fort Worth, Texas of all places, I got a phone call to the blue from a regional sales coordinator who says, hey, just came across your resume on Indeed. Why'd you ever leave Aflac in the first place? Right? I said, well, how long do you have? So anyway, we won't get into that story. Maybe that's another conversation. But COVID, of course, changed the world.
Right.
And the core of what we do is go out and see people. We go out to business owners and talk to them about solutions we may have to help their businesses.
Right.
And when you can't go out to see people, There's just not the same effect through the Zoom
Yeah.
effect. And so it decimated the sales force. And she was desperate, and she found my resume, even though I'd been 14 years away. She says, I need someone like you to help me rebuild my area.
This was after 2020. She's trying to rebuild.
Yeah, this was May of 2022
Okay.
when she reached out to me. And, one thing led to another. I came back on board. I had to get relicensed because I dropped my license back in 2008. And pretty quickly I decided, I think I need to get back to California, in part because my children are here.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son, Diego, who's 30, who currently lives in Santa Barbara. And my daughter, he'll be 30. I'm aging him already. He'll be 30 in May. My daughter, who's 28, has 2 young boys in Kingsburg, not too far from War. And I thought, I need to go back and be grandpa for a while.
Yeah.
I need to go see those boys grow up and be there and be a part of their life. So I came back in November of 23. With Aflac, I'm an independent rep, so as long as I have a license in that state, I could pretty much operate anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is a bit of a corporate structure to what we do. So I had to make a decision that I want to kind of relocate in the Fresno area or Central Coast. That's a tough decision when you think about geography, right? Getting back to geography. So I still have some connections in Santa Barbara, and had a friend there who went and helped him establish some business with him and his company. And it kind of led to one thing or another, and it made sense to be in this area.
Yeah.
And so I am new to this particular town. In terms of that, I just took over the district sales position here on the 1st of February.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but no, I love it. I love doing what I do, and obviously love the area. So.
Yeah. So explain to me what Aflac does at a whole.
Sure.
And I'll try to understand it and ask questions.
Sure.
As we go.
No. So as I mentioned, we work with local business owners. Mm-hmm. So Aflac is an insurance company. Okay. And before everyone starts booing, because no one's ever a fan of insurance. We have too much insurance, right?
Yeah.
It's not auto, it's not homeowners, and that's what most people think. They recognize the brand. The brand's outstanding.
Oh, yeah. I've seen plenty of commercials.
Plenty of commercials, right? Funny thing is, when I came on board initially in 2001, the duck had just started to become the
mascot.
The mascot, if you will, right? And so here we are 23 years later, and it's still going strong.
Yeah.
Right? And so anyhow, what we do is we talk to business owners about potential solutions we could provide for them. So small business owners typically struggle offering comprehensive benefits plan, and primarily for cost. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so we have some solutions for them that don't come at those high costs. In fact, they're not even required to fund any of the things we provide for them and their employees that really help them either retain or attract employees, particularly at a time of growth, or to have something competitive to draw the kind of talent they're looking for to help drive their businesses. And not everyone understands what we do. We do market a lot because we're all independent. So we're all out there hustling, trying to establish our own businesses.
Yeah.
So there's a number of businesses that'll say, okay, here comes the Aflac guy again, and without really having an opportunity to talk to us about how we might be able to help them stay in business and be competitive.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the industry is. Our bread and butter is that 3-employee group to 25, 30 employees. And typically those are the kinds of companies that don't have the resources to buy those big benefit packages.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're a solution to some, and in some cases we can expand and enhance those larger company plans as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're versatile in what we can offer to them.
To your knowledge, is there anybody else in the area that's doing what you guys with Aflac?
Yeah, there's some representatives here already prior to me coming in. Some well-established ones, some that have since gone and retired and moved on, and new people all the time looking for a new opportunity. It's one of the unique ways to get in business for yourself without having a ton of capital necessary.
Right.
I didn't have to go to the bank and ask for a loan to start my own business here. That's one of the attractive things. Okay.
Yeah. So when you say that, do you usually do both? Like one, provide solutions for businesses, and two, recruit people to work?
In my role, yes.
Okay.
In my role, it's a dual role. I'm still expected to go out and generate business, and then I'm expected to train the new reps coming in, and in some cases, the veteran reps who haven't had that opportunity
Yeah.
to see from someone in the veteran status.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been with Aflac for just about 10 years now combined. So I provide a different perspective of them, how to approach business owners and how to enhance and increase their own business volumes. And then I'm expected to recruit and provide the opportunity to others to come on board. So I said, in some sense, assemble a team.
Yeah.
And I always relate it back to my athletic career.
Yeah.
It's about coaching, it's about playing, it's about effort. It's all about all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm able to combine my experience from both into the situation I'm in now.
So I think Paso is a pretty good spot to start then, because a lot of mom and pops here, from ranging from those 3 staff to 25.
Oh, yeah.
Once it goes over 25, I think it's considered like a bigger company, apparently, right? Because looking at a payroll perspective, when I worked at Park Cinemas, 25 or more, you fell in a different like bracket. So minimum wage was different as opposed to under 25, and just all like simple little things that nobody really thinks about, right?
Sure. Well, any industry has regulations,
Yeah.
right? And California leads the league in regulations for sure, business-wise.
Yeah.
No business owner is going to argue that point.
Right.
But sometimes the state will come up with certain things and mandate that businesses of a certain size have to offer certain things. Okay. Well, we don't fall into that. We're not subject to that. We can operate within any of those parameters
Okay.
because there's not a necessity to have us. But what our challenge is in terms of going to the business owner and to the employees themselves is to explain how our products help protect their lifestyles, how our products help protect their financial well-being. And it's in the whole method of what our products provide in terms of benefit to people. So we're one of the few insurance products out there that pays cash directly to people, as opposed to what your group coverage would do. Your group coverage is going to pay the doctors and the hospitals and the facilities. That's what group insurance does, right? We all know that. We've all used it at some point.
Yeah.
But we also have, for those of us, unfortunately, who have had to delve deep into our health plan because there's a severe injury or severe illness, there's loss of income as a result of that. Okay? And I still have bills to pay at home. I've got all these other additional costs due to my medical situation
Right.
that I have to come out of pocket on. But I also got to pay these bills, and I'm not working as much now. Where do I get the money?
Right.
I can't go to the bank and ask for a loan when I'm struggling because they're not going to do that.
No.
And so our products pay people cash benefits, and then it's up to them to decide how they need to use it most based on their own individual circumstances. So that's when people understand and realize the value of what we do. Okay. And we pay claims. Okay. And there's another 5-letter word for you in the industry, if you will. It's not a good thing. People don't have a good experience with their auto claim or their homeowner claim, et cetera. Well, what keeps us in business is the fact is that we pay claims.
Okay. So let's say I'm shopping around for help, right? Is that what you guys technically offer the help to fulfill the rest of it, right? Fill in the gaps, or are you talking about like what? So highlight one product right now. You said products.
Sure.
So what's one product for sure that people today would benefit just off the bat?
Sure. Well, one of the unfortunate things in life is that cancer is indiscriminate, right? Doesn't necessarily run in families, although there is history of it running in families. But it's an increasing situation that people find themselves in being diagnosed with cancer. It's expensive. You might have a great health plan, but you're going to pay a significant amount of cost as you fight it. And treatments are great now, and treatments are better. More and more people are surviving, but it's coming at a greater cost. And so even though you have a great health insurance plan, you're still going to have significant out-of-pocket costs. On top of the fact that if it's you and you're the primary earner at home, you're not earning that income. right?
Right.
And in some cases, the healthy spouse is missing time off work to get the unhealthy spouse well,
Right.
traveling to treatment facilities, et cetera, and so forth. And then, unfortunately, children are diagnosed with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because we're paying cash benefits, and a product like that would pay healthy cash benefits to a policyholder, it just helps people maintain until they can get through and get back on their feet again. And so, we talk about things that are uncomfortable for people at times, which is necessary at times. And we're, for the most part, every Aflac rep that you talk about has a passion for helping people. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important. Is you have to have a real passion for helping people and finding some solutions for them at their time of greatest need.
Yeah.
And so we offer it on a proactive basis. We've all been hit with the GoFundMe requests, right? The tri-tip dinners, the carnitas dinners, the tamale sales, because there's been an unfortunate medical event in the family. Mm-hmm. Well, this is offering people a proactive opportunity to protect themselves a little bit further.
Okay. So what does that look like as far as like monthly payments? Are they looking at yearly, bi-yearly? What are you guys, how do you guys, I guess the question is, how do you guys qualify them to be receiving those cash benefits?
Sure. So different products, I just explained one product. We have different products that provide different benefits depending on what the situation is, but they're all priced accordingly. Mm-hmm. So we've got a particular level of a cancer plan, and a higher benefited level, and then the highest benefit. So it's all going to be cost accordingly. Not as expensive as one would think. Not as difficult to get a plan as one would think. In fact, we don't even ask if you smoke in our cancer plans here in California. Okay, and I mean, let's be realistic. People that smoke have a higher incidence of
those people that, even though they quit, have exposed themselves already.
Right. And then that's on the back of our mind. But when you can get a product and pay the same price as someone who's 18 years old, I'm gonna be 61 in July.
Right.
I can get that same plan at the same price as the 18-year-old and be covered. And if hopefully I don't need the benefit, hopefully I don't get diagnosed, but it's an additional protection layer to keep me potentially from going to my 401k and drawing out, or my retirement plans. That money was designed for something else.
Got it.
Aside from the potential penalties, aside from the receiving it as normal income and paying the tax on it. Right? So it's just a different part of the solution, if you will, for people.
Interesting.
And we're the largest provider of that type of product in the world.
I kind of feel like you might be one of the only providers, because it's sounding different than what usual insurances are.
Right.
Because when I hear insurance, I hear just in case insurance. Like you don't get any of that money back, even though you've been paying it every single month.
Right.
Unless you make claims and put it to use, right? But even then, you got deductibles.
Right. And so there's no such deductibles or copays with our products. You pay a premium, you lock that premium in, and that rate is guaranteed for you, even though you claim on it. We don't increase rates just because you've claimed on a product. In fact, if you leave that employer, you can take that policy with you locked in at the same rate. And so there's a lot of value to what we do as well.
Yeah. So when you go through employees will, whatever rate they get through that is not a group, right? Is it individual?
They're all individual policies. But the concept with Aflac is we can, you can sit here, and if we role played and you were looking at a product, but you're just, you don't belong, you belong to Miguel. Miguel runs his podcast here, right? You're your own guy. You can get a direct policy from us, but it's not going to be as favorable cost-wise for you. And the benefits aren't going to be as rich as they will be in the product I can offer at the work site.
Okay.
It's, the concept of insurance, spreading risk over a larger pool, if you will, which allows us to price it at those price points.
Got it.
Right.
So if somebody, for some reason, didn't have health insurance, would you be a good alternative?
We can be in some cases. In some cases, not in all. Certainly, the health insurance plays an important role.
Right.
We're more an enhancement to those things.
Okay.
And so, without getting all the details and going through the weeds, most of the people we sit down with do qualify for our products, sans any serious medical events that they've already experienced and already going through.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's very much like any insurance. I can't wreck my car, then go over to the auto guy and say, "Hey, man, can you insure my car?" Right?
Yeah.
And so, in some sense, it's the same, but in terms of how the benefit actually is paid out, it's much different.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me now. Because I would watch the commercials, and I was joking with my wife before I got here. I was like, you know what? That's a good question. I'm going to ask them exactly what Aflac does. And I know they're not stunt doubles, because Duck played a stunt double in one of the commercials.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, I guess we'll find out. And obviously now I got homework to do and report back to her, letting her know what's happening. But now I'm curious as to the recruitment part, like, because you're using, a method of coaching that you are able to translate it to building a team here, right?
Right.
So when you talk to a new person who wants to work for you or work with you, because you're saying they're independent, what is it what you look for, and two, if it's not there, how do you talk them out of it if you have to?
Give them readers all advice, right?
Yeah. Give them everything, be transparent, be candid, be frank, whatever word you want to use. But I think a big part of, cause I've done, I like to think of myself as like somebody who wants to experience different things and learn a lot, right? A little every day, you become an expert at the end of your life. And, but that means I've tried the bad ones too. The Legal Shield, the multi-marketing companies, and I've always went into it thinking like, oh, the product is amazing. So I sign up and I'm learning about the product. I'm trying to learn about the product, but the ones who brought me in are like, oh no, go get 3 more people. And then we can go to the conference. Oh, get 3 more, this is right pyramid scheme. And I was just like, but what about the product? Can you tell me a little bit more? Who do I talk to? Because that's what I want to sell. I don't want to recruit. I wanted to sell the product.
Right.
And so I'm just getting like, I'm not having flashbacks, but I'm seeing that connection here of where, how do you recruit, and are you the only one recruiting, or do other people recruit that are under you?
No, that's a good question. So even though we're independent contractors ourselves, there's a very corporate structure behind Aflac. Okay, so in the Aflac world, you have the corporate world, of which includes our territories. We're broken up in territories throughout the country. We happen to operate out of the Southwest Territory.
Okay.
And then within territories are markets. And our market sales coordinators are employees. They're W-2 employees of Aflac, so they're corporate as well.
Okay.
Anything below a market becomes a region. I'm a district sales coordinator, and then you have the associate position. And so our regional sales coordinator has the primary responsibility for recruitment. I assist. If I go into a restaurant, I get great service, and I'm taken by the kind of service I get. I may have a conversation with that individual and say, "Hey, you do a great job. I really appreciate the service you provided me. Do you do this full time? Is there a possibility you're looking for any sort of opportunities out there?" So you ask around. Certainly you see work ethic, you see personality, right? And you see drive.
Yeah.
And those are all qualities that I think any employer would be happy to talk to you about.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of getting them in for a conversation, seeing kind of what drives them, seeing what they're trying to do. And, funny enough, I tell people, somebody asked me the other day, what brought you to Aflac? And my honest answer was, well, number one, I've always been a shitty employee. That 9 to 5 I mentioned earlier just never suited me, and just like the classroom, right? My mind wanders too much. I need to be challenged. I need to find something that garners my interest, and so find out what drives them. What do you think your worth is? If I were to hire you today, what would be a dollar amount that you think you're worth? Everyone's got a dollar amount. Okay.
Everybody's got a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Have you been surprised at some dollar amounts? I'm like, I believe you. I believe it's more.
Well, by and large, most of us undervalue what we believe, what we potentially bring in, right? And so, how about if you were in control of determining your income? Would that be something you're interested in? And we very much are, okay? And I'm not into cliches with glass ceilings and all that, but
Yeah.
you ultimately decide what your income is and what we do based on your willingness to work, number one, based on your willingness to learn, number two, okay? And, fortune plays a role in all of that. But, are you observant out there?
Right.
Do you see opportunities to go talk to people about what we do? And it takes time, but eventually there's people that maybe never would have ever gotten hired for, $80,000, $90,000 roles who do tremendously well in what we do.
Right.
And so there's no formula other than drive
Yeah.
in people that really determines who's successful in what we do. For me, I love the competitive aspect of it. I love the camaraderie of the coaching aspect of it because it reminds me of, the structure I got in basketball. So it's the best of two worlds for me. And then I certainly love the flexibility. I mean, tomorrow, if I truly wanted to, and to say, I'm going to spend 3 days with my grandkids, I can arrange my schedule to do that. Or more importantly, if I need to.
Right.
Okay? I don't have to ask anybody's permission. I'd simply have to follow through perhaps with appointments I've set and said, hey, unfortunately, can we reschedule something's coming up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of attractiveness to it. There's also a lot of fear and apprehension because now you rely on you.
Right. When it was a steady paycheck or you're familiar with living off of tips, according to the waiter.
Yeah.
How would you, so let's say you bring them on, there's already thoughts that go through my head of what like my idea of finding people go. And I think about warm markets and cold markets, right? Mm-hmm. Warm markets is what? Your family and friends. Sure. Do you encourage those kind of things?
We ask them to create a list of everybody they know, family, friends, and not so much to go and try to sell them product, but they all work somewhere.
Yeah.
Some of them own businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. You spend your money at a variety of different places. You're a customer of somebody else.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with you spending money at some local establishment that you're out of line to go and say, hey, can I get 15, 20 minutes of your time to share with you what I do? You might find that I can help you with your business here. And if not, that's fine. But I'm just looking for a chance to share with you what I do. Mm-hmm. I think most people would be receptive to that. Yeah. The stigma, if you will, is salesmanship, sales. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of businesses that we go into that don't have regular traffic. So as soon as you walk in, that's the immediate concern. And we understand that. But from what I shared with you about what we do and what our products do, even though it's been minimal, most people have no idea. Right. We just get clumped in the insurance thing. And nobody needs more insurance.
Do you think that's sort of kind of like what Aflac does on purpose? Not completely, because the commercial only says so much, right? Do you think it's on purpose so that way it grabs people's interest on what they actually do? And then you guys go in and be like, hey, you've seen the commercials. Mm-hmm. I'm here to explain what it was all about. Right. Do you see that it helps or it doesn't help? Like, what is your personal opinion about the commercials? Because that's the most exposure I've received from Aflac.
Well, that's a lot to put into one commercial. That's a long commercial, right? But what they do tell you is they speak to in our commercials about gaps. We cover the gaps that regular insurance doesn't cover. Mm-hmm. So we tell you what it is, but it takes a little bit more explanation about that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so in a commercial, you really couldn't explain too much in depth of what you do. But it does give people a sense if they do listen to the wording besides just the visuals and the people we use. Right?
Hence the stunt double, the filling in for the actual actor.
Right. Well, we've got that, and we've got some real prominent, we talk about, I'm talking about my experience in college athletics. We have some real prominent collegiate, either former coaches or current coaches who are spokespeople for us.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Deion Sanders, primetime, he's a spokesperson for Aflac. So that gets people's attention, but
Yeah.
and they speak to about the gaps that health insurance doesn't cover, but that's all they cover. But I don't know that they do that intentionally. I just think it's a lot to. It's such a different thing than what most people are used to that it requires some sitting down to really digest what we do. And nothing sends the message to what we do when that unfortunate worker, employee, suffers a situation that we're there for, fortunately, because they purchased a plan that will cover them on and gets that benefit. They're our biggest salespeople.
Right.
You know, and so we're there for them at their greatest time of need, and they understand the impact we've had, and they're going to share that good news with people. And we're fortunate to be in that position to have such support, particularly from a policyholder, in that sense.
Yeah, so you kind of let the work speak for itself a little bit.
Right.
It's testimonials, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
I'm sure if somebody did a light Google search to be able to find people who had experiences with Aflac and, this happened and they helped me with this, I've had personal experiences recently, dishwasher claim with the homeowner's warranty, not the insurance. Two separate things, apparently. We've just coming up a year on the house, that we bought. And it was interesting, like continuing 8 months of just dealing with the dishwasher. They spent so much more money on what the dishwasher's worth. They didn't just replace it.
Yeah.
That's just the weirdest thing. And I'll always remember that now and for the rest of my life. and I also dealt with homeowners insurance recently because, the rain, and we found some moisture and we're trying to figure it out. And the guy was really upfront with me as far as like when to and when not to submit a claim, because apparently water and fire in California are the two big like red flags. Even though you're using the claim, using the insurance that you paid for,
Right.
It can be frowned upon.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about being lumped into the insurance realm, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair, by the same token, insurance is not an easy thing for most people to grasp and understand. It can be very technical. It can be very cumbersome. And who besides guys like me spend time every day talking about insurance, right? Particularly how we work with employees. Usually it's around open enrollments, and most employees know what open enrollments mean. That's basically when they get a choice of what the employer offers, et cetera, and they make these decisions. That's the only time they really spend, if any time, trying to make that decision. Then it's forgotten. So maybe for part of one day out of 365, so they forget what coverages they have. That's to be expected. And so sometimes we get a little backlash for that because, well, you said this was going to be covered in your meeting. Well, I'm sorry, that's not what I said. What I said was this. And yes, you do have one of our policies. However, for what you're asking me for, it's not covered on this policy. Okay. That's not a fault of anybody's other than lack of review, lack of information, lack of full understanding, And that happens sometimes, unfortunately. It's not a perfect world, right? We certainly address other issues, like because it's your own business with us.
Yeah,
we have a number of people that come on. Hey, I want to give this a try. 3 or 4 months later, it becomes tougher than they thought, and I just need to go out and find employment and move on. And so maybe that one group they were able to open, they're not there for anymore.
Right.
And now you multiply that times 10 in a region.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you have no serviced accounts. And that's something that we battle. It's kind of an unfortunate thing in our realm of work. But that's one of my jobs as a district sales coordinator, coming in and seeing a lot of these stagnant accounts to go back and say, look, let's revisit why you brought us in the first place. Right. Okay. Every business has their challenge with a product or a service. Might be a great restaurant in town, and I go and I have a bad experience one day. That doesn't make it a bad restaurant. or does it make that chef not very good?
Right.
It's just one bad experience. Okay. And I can choose to run with that and find somebody else who had that similar experience to validate my opinion, but it doesn't mean as a whole that it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And so we run into our share of that, and I don't shy away from it. I'm willing to, well, let's talk about it, Share with me what your issue is. Share with me what the problem was. How do we get back to that point where it made sense to bring us in? And then if we can come to that agreement, how do we move forward to provide what it is that we need to provide for you?
So it's just a gentle reminder on why they're doing business with you to begin with.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's just something that's part of the requirement for what we do.
I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one of the honest things that anybody has admitted is you have turnover pretty much.
Yeah, you do. Every company does.
Yeah.
That's why we're part of a solution sometimes, right?
You're part of because if anything, like it brings in another thing to solve, right?
Right.
Which is funny because like I think when other companies have turnover or lack of representation and they have to pick up the slack. I mean, I feel like I felt it before from other places, not specifically insurance, but they were like, hey, I'm sorry, I have to, social workers or something like that, right? Because my wife was dealing with a social worker before she got with me, like for her insurance or something. And then we had the kid and we had 2 kids and it was all a mess, especially with 2020. Everything was just keep pushing it forward. You're approved. Instead of us having our own insurance by then, it was just the craziest thing.
Yeah.
Free insurance for 2 years at least, but now it's super expensive.
Sure.
And I remember there was turnover over there, and we just kept having to hit the reset button and sound like a broken record every single time. And there was no sense of organization as far as like picking up the slack in a way where it made sense. It was more of a, oh yeah, there was that other guy. Don't forget everything you talked about him. Here's what I'm telling you. And I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the price of doing business.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, And so like I said, we come up with unique strategies for employers in that sense. And one of I'll share with one and see if you think this makes sense. And I put your business owner hat on for a minute here. Okay. And so you need to you have to do something to help retain employees, and you can certainly increase their compensation. Right?
You could.
Okay, you could, right? You could, right? And it comes with a lot of other things. You went into business to earn a profit, right? And you're an expert at your product or service. And so that's what's important to you as a business owner. We get that. Doesn't matter what you're doing, okay? But you got to keep expenses in line, but how do you retain the people that are helping you earn that? So you can bring in that employee and say, look, I'll give you a $100 raise this month. Okay. So $100 raise a month, that's $1,200 a year. Okay. Great. But now you're going to have to pay the additional tax on that income.
Right.
Okay. All right. He's not going to get the full 100 because there's payroll taxes that cut into that. So most it's going to be like $80 addition.
Yeah.
So, okay. Maybe you do that. And do you think with that additional money, he or she is going to go out and potentially get something to protect their financial well-being and interest for their family? In other words, are they going to go out and spend it on insurance stuff?
Right. Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. But as a business owner, you can take that same $100 and say, look, I can't increase your income, but I can certainly increase our benefits. I'm going to give you $100 a month, and you're going to have a choice of some of these products to purchase to help protect your family and your financial well-being. And it's a fixed cost now, okay? It's a fixed cost for that employee to utilize.
Yeah.
Okay? That's potentially a way to keep employees with you. It's a potential solution.
Especially in California.
Right. Now, that conversation can go on and on, but that's one example of a strategy that perhaps some employers haven't thought about.
Right.
Why? They're busy running their business. Okay.
They're busy looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I got another car to bring in to change the tires, man. I got more tables out here. I got to go help. They're busy running their businesses, and sometimes we all get too busy that we're working so hard inside our business that we're not working on our business.
Right.
That happens to us too. And so there's that fine line for every business owner that when do you take time to try to find other solutions to help keep your lights on,
Right.
right? And so we think we have some solutions through that angle for them. And that's what we try to do all day long, is to try to get that time with the business owner to share with them those. And frankly, I know we're not a solution to everybody, but we might be a solution to many
Right.
who could utilize this. And that's the gratifying part of it, because now I'm an extension perhaps of your business by bringing in these for you. You didn't have to pay me as an HR person or as an additional payroll person, et cetera, and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm able to bring this value to you to help you. And that's what we do.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. That's a good way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know when you mentioned like you can give them a raise. You know, obviously everybody wants to be paid $100 an hour, but if you're not working 40 hours a week,
Right.
what was the point of of the raise? And I've dealt with a lot of half-time employees, right? And after a certain amount of hours, I think over 30 hours, you're considered like full time or something like that. You have to stay under within a period of like 3 months. It has to be average of under 30 hours a week, something like that. It was really messy to keep, but at the movie theater, it was a lot of kids, so it wasn't as hard until I started hiring more adults.
Yeah.
22, 23, 24, they start looking for more things, benefits, hours, and all stuff, raises. But the thing I always could offer is my ability to work for them, right? My ability for them to not worry about if they have a job, if for some reason something comes up.
Right.
That's why everybody's always worried. I'm out of sick days. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We will make up the hours later. We know you will.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it today.
Yeah.
You know, and that was always in my mind, like even though I was like the boss,
Right.
I was working for them.
Yeah.
That was always my mentality.
Yeah.
And sometimes it became really like exhausting.
Sure.
But it was like the only thing I knew for sure has kept me this long in the position I was.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. Yeah. Another thing we come across with business owners is, particularly small business owners, is they get to know their employees a lot better than the larger companies.
Right.
You know, they're a little bit more intimate with them. They know about their families. You know,
Yeah.
families will come by and visit, whoever's working there, et cetera. Especially in a community this size. Well, I've certainly experienced this in those situations. Is, something occurs to one of those families, that employee's family, medically related. They feel close enough to that owner to come and ask for an extension, a loan, et cetera.
In advance. Yeah.
In advance, yeah. And that's not what you're in business for.
No.
You're not a bank, right?
Puts you in a tough spot.
Yeah. And so some of the questions we try to uncover when we're talking to people, is like, if they're willing,
Yeah.
And again, it's part of perhaps a potential solution for them.
Yeah. How do you plan to, since you're back since February 1st, how do you plan to teach the community about what Aflac does? Besides building your team, what are you doing actively yourself to get people aware of what Aflac is?
Sure. I've reached out to the chamber. I'd love to become a member of the chamber. Number one, Aflac has a real solid philanthropic nature to it. A lot of things people don't know is there's a hospital in Atlanta called the Children's Hospital of Atlanta that essentially Aflac has funded over the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Many of that funding comes from field force people like myself who, on our monthly statements, as we get paid through our commission structure, we donate a particular amount every month. And I've certainly done so, even though when I started in 2001 and started doing that, when I left Aflac in 2008 and came back in 22, I still donated because I was still earning some residual commission from that time. I still donate. I never changed it. We offer a product to help people against that devastating disease.
Yeah.
But we also put our money to helping people recover from it as well.
Right.
Okay. And so that being said, we look for foundations that we can potentially partner with, to help spread that there's help out there. We happen to do it on a proactive basis. There's great charities involved throughout that do it on after the unfortunate fact situation.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tremendous partnership to be able to establish. And so we look for those opportunities. I encourage my reps to join civic groups. Right now, primarily our staff here is female. And I know there's a strong women-owned business presence here in town.
Yeah.
So I'm encouraging them, hey, let's go and meet those folks and let's get involved with them. I'm willing to go out and talk to people in a Rotary Club situation, et cetera,
Right.
about what we do. And so it's that to help spread the word as to the potential for people to be proactive about protecting their family's interests.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to see you around more often because I know there's a lot of small mom and pops here. Everybody knows each other,
Sure.
so I'm sure once you start getting on somebody's conversation, you're gonna pop up somewhere else, and then hopefully they have your phone number to reach you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and this certainly helps, Miguel. I appreciate you offering me the opportunity to come in. I mean, gosh.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna slice this up and put on social media to promote the Paso Robles podcast, and you're gonna be the one highlighted on it. So
Hey.
I really appreciate you for doing this. I think it'll be like episode 8 technically.
Okay.
Because I just posted 6, I can't remember. I'm just getting started with this podcast thing. And, aside from renting it out to people who want to do their own thing,
Sure.
which I can also help them from A to B. A lot of people are confused as what I actually do sometimes. You use the room, create your own show. I'll get you published. Pretty much that's it.
Gotcha.
Right. But aside from that, I'm trying to put myself in the hot seat to show people what it actually is, right? For example, I'm using this little number thing. Was it number keypad, whatever, to change camera angles?
Okay.
Yeah, that's as simple as that. But nobody wants to deal with camera angles, so I'm usually in the behind the scenes doing that myself. But everybody else can just sit and talk and chat, and then long form, split it up into little slices for their social media content. And I think that's a popular thing right now.
Sure.
You have a conversation. You take, 60 seconds to maybe 3 minutes and just post it on social media. And, as long as you have a way to, what's that one phrase? Like click through, like have people actually click on your video to go find you and conversion or whatever, customer conversion rate or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm still learning all the terminology.
Yeah.
But, I think just posting information, like for you, I'm excited for you to just let people know who you are. Cause to me, I knew probably zilch as far as what you guys were about. And now it makes sense. And now anybody I know, like I said, it's going through my head. Okay, who do I know that's going to benefit from this? Cause that's my whole goal is to better other people's lives and situations all the time. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I appreciate it. That's, we need people like you in every community, willing to help out and be a resource for connections and networking.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that I've struggled for a long time, remember I didn't say verbally, hey, I like to hang out with him more. I'm doing more of that. Like Paso Robles podcast. Anybody else could have started that show.
Yeah.
Anybody else.
Exactly.
Why me? Because I'm trying to put myself out there too.
Sure.
I know enough people. I grew up here to where I know I've had those conversations, and my wife got she doesn't get upset. She's just very surprised when the pizza guy who's delivering our pizza knows me by first name because I know him from high school. Okay. That's how small of a town this is. Okay. Right?
So she's not from here?
She's from here.
Okay.
But she's more of an introvert. So when we know people, we know people. That's okay. I know that person. I've seen him around. But active work in the workforce and stuff like that, I know everybody. And we'll be walking down. I'm shaking people's hands because they just, oh hey, how have you been? Small town, and it's just. Even when I got to Lemoore, I couldn't get away from it because people from here would go to Tachi Palace. Yeah. And people from over there come to Paso, and I'm like, what are you doing over here? It's very interesting how small the world really is once you really get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Good stuff.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any? I'm trying to figure out how to end these things. One of the things I've been consistently doing is what's a philosophy or a sentence or one liner that you can tell the audience and be like, just think about it. Just reflect on it, go to sleep on it. Tell yourself every morning that mantra. What do you tell yourself to keep going?
Well, I've got a favorite, and my son always reminds me of it when we do chat about life in general, etc. And one of my favorite mantras that I picked up playing at Santa Barbara City College was that I shall be prepared, and perhaps my chance will come.
That's a good one. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
You bet, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for the time.